What's up, everybody? Brian Brindley. Welcome to the Games We Play podcast, where I break down all the news and stories and my thoughts about the different games that we play. On today's episode, it's going to be super NFL-centric, so without further ado, let's get into it. So, first topic of the day, we're going to talk about Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown is a wide receiver for the Oakland Raiders. He was traded there this offseason by the Pittsburgh Steelers after controversy surrounding him, but to give you an idea, if you don't know about Antonio Brown, he is, in my opinion, the best receiver in the NFL. I think it goes him, DeAndre Hopkins, Julio Jones, and then probably Odell Beckham Jr. in that order. Obviously, that list is up to interpretations, up to whatever your thoughts are on the matter. But that's my thoughts. Antonio Brown has been embroiled in controversy after controversy for what seems like the last 3 years. There was throwing patio furniture off of the porch on the second story of a building, I believe. There was the Facebook Live incident where Mike Tomlin is giving a post-game speech and gets pretty directly streamed by Antonio Brown, who's kind of in the background, just kind of like, "Hey, we won!" And then you hear Mike Tomlin talking about the Patriots and said some things that weren't nice, but it's an NFL locker room. That one really bothered me personally, why there was so much outrage over it. Like, yes, Antonio Brown, don't do that, obviously. But, like, that's a pretty minor offense, in my opinion. But, excuse me. But, anyway, there's that. There was the blown up on Ben Roethlisberger. There was just going AWOL the last week of practice when they needed a win and a loss by, I believe it was the Ravens, if I remember correct, someone like that. They needed a loss from somebody in the AFC for them to be able to make the playoffs. And Antonio Brown went AWOL the week of practice because apparently Big Ben, the story goes that Big Ben told the coaching staff after AB ran the wrong route on a play during practice to replace him and get somebody else in there. And then apparently Antonio Brown threw a ball at Ben Roethlisberger, basically told him to F off, and then left practice, went AWOL for like 5 days, didn't even show up to Saturday walkthrough, which is like, wow. And then showed up on Sunday expecting to play, and obviously they benched him, which, actually I shouldn't even say obviously, because Mike Tomlin's kind of a wild card in these situations. He's very pro player, which I appreciate, because most of the time I'm pretty pro player, but in a situation like that, I would have done exactly what Mike Tomlin didn't allow him to play. Pardon me again. But Antonio Brown got traded to Oakland for basically chump change. I think it was a 3rd and a 5th round pick, which is like, okay, cool. You get the best receiver in the NFL for 3rd and 5th round pick. That's great, right? Well, he's hurt. That's one of the things that has developed in the last few weeks. His foot is, I believe that they said he has hypothermia of some kind in his foot. He did like cryotherapy on his feet and apparently wasn't wearing the right footwear. There's specific socks that I think you have to wear when you're doing cryotherapy that cover your toes so that when the cold is working on your ankle and working on your feet, that it's not, because your toes are little things, so they can freeze much easier than like a big chunk of your body like an ankle or a leg can. Apparently wasn't wearing the right footwear, and so he's hurt, hasn't been able to practice, but there's a whole helmet controversy this week. Antonio Brown apparently is wearing a helmet that is outdated. The NFL says that it is not able to be worn anymore, and there's all sorts of weird details in the story. So there's a rumor, I'm not exactly sure if this is confirmed, I can't remember where I read this at, but that he painted his old Steelers helmet that was that type. I don't know what type it was, to tell you the truth, but I know that it is not in production anymore. The company that made that helmet does not make that helmet anymore because it's outdated. The technology is not as safe as new helmets, and the NFL doesn't even allow you to wear it anymore, so why would they make it anymore? Antonio Brown likes it a lot. The main concern of his seems to be that vision is the issue. He can't see as well, which I understand as a receiver. You need to be able to see the ball. You need to be able to survey your surroundings, especially when you're going across the field. If you're dragging across the field, your head is going to get taken off regardless. But if you can at least kind of interpret where a backer's going to be or where a safety's going to crash down at. You can do a little bit of extra work to be able to not get absolutely destroyed in the middle of the field. But regardless, so the weird story that I was on about earlier is he apparently painted or had somebody paint his old Steelers helmet that is not allowed anymore into the Raiders color so he could wear it at practice. And obviously somebody was like, hey, that looks like a shoddy paint job. Let's go check out that helmet. And it was, in fact, the helmet he's not allowed to wear anymore. And so apparently he pitched a fit, allegedly told the Raiders and told the league, I will retire if I cannot wear this helmet. Which turned out to be a bunch of malarkey. Because we all know Antonio Brown's not going to retire. He's not going to leave those millions of dollars on the table. Raiders just gave him an extension after trading for him. We know that he's not going to leave that money on the table. Antonio Brown is above all else about himself. So, while some might be like, well, he definitely would retire. If he can't get what he wants, he's selfish. He should definitely retire. Or, not should, but he would definitely retire. But I don't buy into that because as soon as Antonio Brown is done playing football, he becomes irrelevant, in my opinion. When you look at him in the media, he's not really media savvy. Like, the way that he addresses the press and the way that he addresses, people on social media, it's not very engaging. It's fun. It's a fun spectacle because he's such a good player that you're like, why is he acting like this? But why do people pay attention to that? Because there's a lot of people that have very similar egos and have the kind of antics that Antonio Brown does. But the reason why it's so focused on with him is A, he's the best receiver in the NFL or one of the best. B, he didn't used to be like this. Antonio Brown, when he came into the league, was known as a hard worker. He was not destined for greatness from the beginning. He came out of a nowhere school, really. Was not a first-round pick. He joined a Steelers roster that was obviously loaded on both sides of the ball, but he flourished into one of the game's best receivers because he had great coaching, and most importantly, he had astounding work ethic. Everybody that's worked with Antonio Brown has talked about how he is one of the hardest workers that they have ever worked with. And I believe it because I can tell that he really, really cares about the game, which is really important. I'm really glad that he cares about the game. I hope that he continues to care about the game as much as he does. I don't know if he does anymore, though. When you come out in an interview with ESPN and you say, I love football, it's great, but I don't need it. I don't think Antonio Brown 4 or 5 years ago would have ever said that. Or if somebody would have told him, hey, in 5 years, you're going to be like, I don't really need football. I like it, but I don't really need it. I just think that he wouldn't go for that. I don't think he would believe he would have said that. I don't think he would have said that, period. It's an interesting situation, and I think we're seeing the transformation of somebody who is being... It's hard for me to say because I don't want to psychoanalyze somebody because I don't know his past. I don't really know who he is as a person. But it seems like money is playing a role here. It seems like ego is playing a role here. And the helmet thing is, I think, indicative of that. Because what was his plan? It wasn't, hey, I'm going to appeal to the league and I'll play, but I really want to try to get this helmet reinstated. His immediate thing was, I'm going to retire. You don't let me do this, I'm going to retire. It's your little brother when you're playing basketball at the park and you keep scoring on him and he takes the ball and he's like, well, I'm going home. I'm not going to play anymore. He can't have it how he wants it. It's childish. It's pretty pedantic. It's childish. It's not in the sport. It's not in the air or the sense of teamwork that football is about. Football, more than any other sport that I played throughout my whole life, is about teamwork. You eat as a team. You practice as a team. You lift as a team. In baseball, we would do the same. We would do similar things, but you could lift on your own. You could go and take BP on your own. But you're not. But in football, you're doing everything together. You want to make sure that your team is tight. You want to make sure that all your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. Antonio Brown threatens that because What he likes to do is he likes to do basically whatever he wants to do. Which, granted, I think that he should have some liberty to do what he wants. He's the best player on that roster by far. He's proven himself to be one of the game's best receivers and most consistent receivers too. He is a hard worker still to this day. I don't doubt that. Saw that on Hard Knocks. I see that in everything that I know and see about the guy. He's a hard worker. He works tirelessly to be the game's best receiver, and he has earned somewhat of a spot. But at what point does it become too much? Because I just don't know how long somebody like that can last. And the thing is, there is a crossroads. On this end, there is your talent. It's a line. Your talent will take you this far. But there's your BS. And where talent meets BS is perfect. If you can get it to meet there, what would probably be best if your talent was nowhere near your BS. If your BS was like, your BS doesn't exist and you just have talent, that'd be great. But let's be honest. Stars are egotistical. Stars are driven by things like money. They're driven by glory. They're driven by their pedigree, basically. So, you're going to have ego involved. You're going to have BS involved. With a guy like AB, what you want is production to meet BS. Somewhere that X marks the spot right there. But at what point, if his production falls off, will John Gruden, will Raiders ownership stop taking that stuff? Because John Gruden defended the helmet thing, which I think he should have done. Defend your players. A lot of people are kind of getting on him for that, saying that, no, you cannot give him special treatment because that'll create a rift in the locker room, and then if somebody else tries to get something and you don't defend them, then there's going to be an issue there, and there's going to be, well, you did this for this guy, you didn't do it for me, so why didn't you do that? But I think that most players in the NFL will understand that that's Antonio Brown, like future Hall of Famer Antonio Brown, one of the game's best receivers, Antonio Brown. So I don't buy that argument that it's going to create a rift in the locker room based on that merit. I think his actions themselves will create a rift in the locker room because this is not the end. This is only the beginning. And if it's starting here, I am fearful of where it will be in year 2, year 3, when your skill kind of starts to fall off because he's young enough to still put up prolific numbers. Age comes up on you fast, though, and injuries can come up on you even faster. So Antonio Brown is going to be a name to keep an eye on in the future because when that divorce happens, him in the NFL or him in whatever team he's on, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be supremely ugly. You're going to have a guy who has been basically, I don't want to say coddled, but people have looked the other way for the last few years for the most part. The media hasn't really. They focus on it because it's controversial, and that's what sells. Controversy sells. But teams have, for the most part, besides that incident with Tomlin where he's didn't play him in that Week 17 game, he's like, okay, putting up numbers. That's all that really matters to me. As long as you're putting up numbers and as long as you're working hard, you can have these little weird childish outbursts and kind of just got to take it because you're the game's best receiver. But he won't be for long. I don't think he has that much longer at the top of the league. I think DeAndre Hopkins is nipping on his heels already. And DeAndre Hopkins doesn't come with nearly as much baggage. Odell Beckham probably does. But Julio Jones and DeAndre Hopkins don't. They go out there and perform. And I understand that different personality types mean different things. So I'm not even asking him to be like them. I'm just saying you're going to see a difference. There's a reason why a guy like Larry Fitzgerald, who is still a great player, but he's not one of the league's best receivers. He's not as athletic as he used to be. He's probably smarter than he used to be because he's older, but the reason why he still garners so much respect and the reason why he still has so much sway in the Arizona Cardinals organization are two things. A, loyalty. One of the most loyal players I have ever seen in the National Football League, Larry Fitzgerald. And B, he's just a stand-up guy. He's a great character. I live in the Phoenix area. He is always at charity events. He's always talking with, local celebrities and local leaders and making sure that the Phoenix community is together. He's a leader of the Arizona Cardinals. He's great with the rookies. He's great with front office. That kind of stuff will take you far. Antonio Brown isn't going to have that kind of end to his career where it's going to be a great send-off, of a guy, and people are going to say, wow, what a man. They're going to say, wow, he was such a great player. Larry Fitzgerald, I think the story is, wow, what a great player, but what a spectacular person. And to me, that would much rather be my legacy. But I just don't think that it's going to happen with Antonio Brown. I don't think it can. I think he's dug his hole too deep at this point. By the way, the whole helmet thing, it's not going to come of anything. He's going to wear the new helmet, probably complain. It'll be gone in a week. Such is the way that the tide goes when the NFL season begins. So, that's my opinion on Antonio Brown and the helmet controversy. Let me know what you guys think. I'd actually like to know your guys' thoughts. Do you think that Antonio Brown's antics are worth putting up with at this point? If you're the Oakland Raiders, what do you do with him? You obviously just gave him that massive contract. You can't really trade him away unless you're really feeling gutsy. But how would you handle this? What do you think is going to become of Antonio Brown at the end of his career? I'd love to know what you guys think. Drop a comment. Obviously, you can hit me on Twitter, Facebook. Just let me know. And let's move on to topic number 2, Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns. Now, I have their schedule pulled up because I do have some major concerns about this team. A lot of people are really high on the Cleveland Browns. I don't blame them for being high on the Cleveland Browns. Let me get a little closer so I can get onto this right here and pull up their schedule. So, had joint practices with the Colts today for the first time, I believe, and they play them in the preseason on Saturday. Speaking of the Colts, Andrew Luck, obviously there's that injury update. We'll probably talk about that in a separate video or maybe in another podcast when more details develop, but I just felt like there wasn't enough information for me to put together a whole thing there. And actually, really quick, let me get this book. My neck is cranked because I have to lean down to the microphone. Get a couple of books and put them up there. Hashtag not sponsored, but still want to read Shook One. Bought it at Walmart like a month ago and still haven't read it because I am a busy boy and I don't have time to read. Also want to read, you know what, while we're here, other book I need to read. Bought this as well, Howard Stern's book. Hashtag not sponsored. But, you know, you got to learn from the best to be the best, right? So if I'm going to learn about radio shit, got to learn from the best. So, anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, the Browns. So, let's look at their schedule. Week 1, they play the Titans, a winnable game. They're going to win that game, I would say. They're at home, start off the season with a bang. Great job. Play the Jets on the road. Another game I think they can win. Got to face, obviously, Le'Veon Bell and Sam Darnold in year 2. Robbie Anderson is an underrated wide receiver. But I still think they pull off the victory. So it's 2-0 right off the bat. Then comes the Rams. Don't think they're winning that game. Then comes the Ravens on the road. Don't think they're winning that game. Then comes the 49ers on the road. They can win that game. Don't know how good Jimmy G is. That's another topic that we could talk about another time. Jimmy G has started, like 9 or 10 games? Ever? But people are so high on them. I hear so many people talking about how good the 49ers are going to be. But, yeah, they have a decent roster. I love Kittle at tight end. I watched him destroy the Seahawks last year. But, let's slow our roll on the 49ers. Obviously, it's got to be the Shanahan thing, right? What else could it possibly be? This wire's irritating me. But, what else could it be? I really don't know. We could address that going forward, but back to this at hand. I should name this, the inability to maintain focus podcast, because I just keep going off on tangents. Man, we're already running on 20 minutes. Well, I guess you guys are getting a little bit longer one than I expected to put out for my first one back. So, after that, play the Seahawks at home. I think that's a winnable game. Seattle is notoriously bad on the road. And Cleveland, I think, is going to have a major home field advantage this year. But then the Patriots on the road, the Broncos on the road, back-to-back, not good. Now, here's going to be the issue for the Browns. Play the Steelers twice in 3 weeks, November 14th and December 1st. You play the Cardinals late, which is going to be good for them because that's going to be almost a game that they can rest people because the Cardinals are, let's be honest, the Cardinals aren't looking great. I don't know if you've noticed, but they haven't been looking great. Kyler Murray, I do believe in, though. Got to say, like things I'm hearing from him and out of his coaching staff and the media that's watching him. But I think that the Browns are going to head to the playoffs. Their roster's great, obviously. Baker Mayfield at quarterback, Odell Beckham Jr. you add. You still got Jarvis Landry. That's going to be an insanely good receiving duo. Still got a good running back core. You get Kareem Hunt halfway through the season on fresh legs. That's going to be stupid ridiculous. Stupid ridiculous. And yes, is stupid ridiculous a stupidly ridiculous phrase? Absolutely. But you know, when you're on air, you just kind of got to say what's on your mind. And that was what was on my mind, apparently. Should drink a little bit more water. Maybe I need hydration. Here's my issue with the Browns. Their tough games come in spans. It's not like easy, 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 hard, easy, 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 hard, easy, 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 hard. It's easy, 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 hard, 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 easy, hard, 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 easy, 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 hard. It's much more clustered. And I think with a team that has volatile personalities, especially Odell Beckham Jr., if you're not winning, it's going to be difficult. So, Baker Mayfield's accustomed to winning at this point. He's an underdog individually, but Oklahoma, winner. In Cleveland last year, I feel like you can't really, the expectations were low, and he surpassed them. But this year, there's huge expectations. People are picking the Browns to go to the Super Bowl, which is a little presumptuous in my eyes. I still think the Steelers win the division, but I think that the Browns nab a wild card spot. Baker, I feel like, will act as the lightning rod that he has already for the time being, which I think is actually a genius move on his part. Obviously, you got the Colin Cowherds of the world that hate him, and I should correct myself. He doesn't hate him, he says. But, come on. He's easy to bash. He's easy to hate. But I think what he does really well is he is becoming a lightning rod on a team that has a lot of chaos and turmoil and volatile personalities, but he is able to kind of take the heat because he's brought it on himself since college and doesn't seem to mind it. He's just kind of like, yeah, it's just another day. Just get after it, which I appreciate. I think that's awesome. So, Odell Beckham Jr. I think is going to be, it's going to be interesting to see how he does. Jarvis Landry I think is going to be an absolute sleeper of a player this year. Odell Beckham is going to draw a lot of attention his way by defenses, and that leaves Jarvis Landry a lot of room to work with. Excuse me. And we'll see how they feel, because I think if you start off strong, I think they can win the first 3 games of the season. If they do that, I think they're in great shape. I think if they drop any one of those 3 games, they are going to be in trouble towards the middle of the season. And then at the end of the season, it gets a little bit easier because you've gotten your 2 Steelers games out of the way by the beginning of December. So you can kind of focus for the rest of the month on the easy teams when you play like the Cardinals. When you play, I think they play the Ravens at home later then too. I just put the schedule down, otherwise I would look. But I have my reservations about the Browns, but I'm cautiously optimistic about the team this year. I think Baker Mayfield, I kind of have thrown his name out there as a dark horse MVP candidate. But the more I think about it, I don't know if he would get the credit. He would, obviously, because he's the quarterback, and the quarterback always gets the credit. But I don't know if MVP in your second year is really a doable thing, A. B, if he can really get that kind of credit from enough members of the media and enough people in the game to win an MVP award. But I'm going to make an MVP prediction probably after the first couple of weeks, just to, because I don't like making it before the season, because you don't know. You really don't. Like, you do. You know Tom Brady is going to be a name that's thrown out there just because he is who he is. You know Drew Brees is probably going to have his name thrown out there because he's never won it, despite being one of the game's best quarterbacks we've ever seen. That kind of stuff, but I don't like making those predictions until I at least see a little bit of the season. But let's move on, because topic 3, I think, is the most important topic we're going to talk about today. And that is that Jay-Z and Rock Nation have signed a partnership with the NFL. Let me pull up the story really quick. So, while this loads up, follow me on Twitter at Brian Brindley, BrianBrindley. Ooh, sorry, I gotta crank my neck. Ooh, y'all hear that? That was nice. Okay, go to ESPN.com. Jay-Z defends NFL deal, Panthers read critical. This kind of encapsulates all the talking points that I want to get to throughout this. And man, I think my neck is just cranking from this. Let me scoot my chair in so I can lean back a little bit. Jay-Z defends NFL deal, Panthers read critical. This is by Jason Reed, senior writer of The Undefeated. Unsigned NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick might as well have been seated next to NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell during Wednesday's news conference to officially announce the league's new partnership with Sean Jay-Z Carter's entertainment company. The former San Francisco 49ers quarterback's presence was definitely in the room. Although Goodell and Carter both faced a volley of questions about Kaepernick, who became a polarizing figure nationally after protesting police brutality and systematic oppression before games, Carter was repeatedly asked to explain his reasoning for partnering with the NFL, while Kaepernick, whom he has strongly supported, has not been on a roster since the end of the 2016 season. So, obviously to recap it, Colin Kaepernick initially sits on the bench for the national anthem in protest of police brutality, and then after speaking with, I believe he spoke with a soldier who said that the sitting during the anthem was disrespectful, maybe taking a knee would be a better approach. Colin Kaepernick listened and decided to take a knee during the national anthem instead, and has not been on an NFL roster for the last couple of years, 2-3 years. Jay-Z has worn a Colin Kaepernick jersey while performing on SNL. Jay-Z is obviously one of the most outspoken members of the black community. He is one of the leaders of the black community. He is the owner of multiple businesses. He is a Grammy-nominated and Grammy Award-winning artist. He is, in my opinion, the best rapper to ever live. And he is very involved in social justice. He helped Meek Mill's campaign to get out of jail. He multiple times has funded the legal fees for different cases involving police brutality and such things, especially black issues. And his music company, Rock Nation, made basically, I think they're in a partnership with the NFL. It's not really well explained because it's kind of a vague role. They're more involved in the entertainment avenue. So let me see if they write that in here. Right here it says, through music and entertainment, Carter said he can help amplify the league's Inspire Change initiative for social justice and the opportunity to potentially accomplish big things and uplift many in communities important to him was an opportunity he couldn't ignore. Quote, we forget that Colin's whole thing was to bring attention to social injustice. In that case, this is a success. This is the next phase, the entertainment magnate said. There are two parts of protesting. You go outside and you protest, and then the company or individual says, I hear you, what do we do next? For me, it's like action, an actionable item. What are we going to do with it? Everyone heard, we hear what you're saying, and everybody knows I agree with what you're saying in Kaepernick's underlying message. So what are we going to do? You know what I'm saying? Help millions and millions of people, or we get stuck on Colin not having a job. So that is obviously going to be a bit of a lightning rod for people. Colin Kaepernick symbolizes to many people a mentality in the NFL that you are beholden to your owner, as in your NFL team owner. You are beholden to what the fans are going to do, what team officials want to do. It's almost like a sandwich, I think, is what people think the NFL is like. There's the fans that are very vocally opposed to people like Colin Kaepernick protesting and the things that he stands for. At the bottom, there's ownership up top that doesn't want to lose their bottom dollars that come from that bottom bun, and they end up sandwiching in the people in the middle that might support Colin Kaepernick's message, or are people like Colin Kaepernick or Eric Reed that have protested and are trying to get their voices heard, and they feel like they are smothered between the two because bottom dollar has to meet the top person's wallet. That's my opinion on the matter. Obviously, it is a deep dive to get into the true sort of rationale and the true motives behind the reason that Colin Kaepernick is not in the NFL. The reason Colin Kaepernick is not in the NFL, in my opinion, to boil it down, has to do with money, and it has to do with messaging. Colin Kaepernick, I think it would be foolhardy to say that Colin Kaepernick has not proven himself in the NFL. He has made it to a Super Bowl, won an NFC championship, has been to the NFC championship multiple times, has posted winning records as a quarterback. He's obviously a proven player, but when it came to the protest, it was at a time when he was not at his peak level of skill. He was coming off of injury and poor performance, and that combined with the messaging that people saw as offensive, that people saw as disrespectful towards military members, just kind of ended up brewing this perfect or imperfect storm where he no longer has a job. And I think that acting like his protest has no sway on whether he has a job or not is ridiculous. I think either way, you have to at least admit that it has played a factor in why he's not on an NFL roster. But I do think that there are a few outside circumstances that have led to it as well. Personally, I completely disagree with it. As you know, a few years ago, when he got cut from the 49ers, when he, no longer was signed to an NFL roster, I could see multiple spots where he could have been a valuable asset. I think any team that has a running quarterback could use him as a valuable asset. I think that the Arizona Cardinals could do well with having him as a backup option. I think that the Seattle Seahawks could do well with having him as a backup option. The Carolina Panthers could do well with having him as a backup option, but it hasn't come to fruition. We can deep dive in on that whole situation another day. We don't nearly have enough time. We're already running over 30 minutes on this. But main point is, Jay-Z and Rock Nation partnering with the NFL in a more of an entertainment role. So they are going to work with Pepsi on the halftime show, which is important, I think. I think you're going to get a lot more representation from multiple communities because of that. They're also going to work with that Inspire Change initiative, which I think is a good step for the league to take. I think that it rings a little hollow for people because of the Colin Kaepernick situation. And a lot of people are happy about this, that Jay-Z is taking this step. I think that last line of what he said in that quote is interesting and kind of the focal point for the people that are happy about this, where it says, there are two parts of protesting. You go outside and you protest, and then the company or the individual says, I hear you, what do we do next? I think the people that are in support of this are focusing on that. What to do next? Colin Kaepernick is probably never going to play another down in the NFL. I don't think that is surprising to people. I think it's upsetting to some people, but I don't think anybody who's really surprised to hear that he's not going to be able to play in the NFL. He's probably not going to get a job anymore. I think the time has passed for people. I think at this point, the expectations are so high that if he did come back and didn't perform at the level that didn't perform at this gargantuan, just like catastrophically great level, that people would be like, see, this is why we didn't want him on the roster. It wasn't because of the protest. It was because of this play. So I think at this point, you just cut your losses. That's kind of... That's the mentality that I'm seeing. And I understand that mentality in a certain point. I do think that Colin Kaepernick should have a job. But I do understand that mentality of like, okay, so maybe Colin Kaepernick can't get his job back in the NFL. But if the NFL learns from this going forward and tries to make a change, then maybe that will help in the long run. And it will never heal the wound completely that the Kaepernick situation left in a lot of people's hearts. But maybe it will build a bridge to making those situations better in the future. But there's also people like Panthers safety Eric Reed, who I think he was the first one to join Kaepernick in the it says here, Carolina Panthers safety Eric Reed, who was the first player to join Kaepernick in kneeling during the national anthem, also posted a tweet Wednesday night in response to the deal and Jay-Z's remarks on Kaepernick. So this is in response to SportsCenter quoting that, so what are we going to do? Help millions and millions of people or get stuck on call and not having a job? Eric Reed quoted it and said, "These aren't mutually exclusive. They can both happen at the same time. It looks like your goal was to make millions and millions of dollars by assisting the NFL in burying Colin's career." Reed, who has also been a vocal critic of the Players Coalition, called the Rock Nation deal Players Coalition 2.0 in a tweet, following up with an explanation of his criticism. So a user replied and said, "Eric, I rock with you, but you're actually signed and playing with the team. Saying anything about partnerships seems kind of weird. If you felt that strongly, you didn't have to start back playing." The thing addressed there by that user is saying, like, if you feel some way about Jay-Z signing into a partnership with the NFL with Rock Nation, why are you playing? Because Colin Kaepernick's not allowed in the league, but you're making money from the league and you're helping boost the league's ego because you're playing in it. And Eric Reed responded to that and said, "You and some others seem to misunderstand that we had no beef with the NFL until they started perpetuating the systematic oppression that we are fighting by blackballing Colin and then me. Nah, I won't quit playing, but I'll be a royal pain in the NFL's ass for acting like they care about people of color by forming numerous disingenuous partnerships to address social injustice while collectively blackballing Colin, the person who brought oppression and social injustice to the forefront of the NFL platform." This is a really long article. Not really long, actually. I thought that was more of it. It's not a really long article. This is a super nuanced situation. My thoughts on it. I think Jay-Z has the right intentions in mind. I think he really does care about social injustice. I think he cares about correcting systematic oppression. I think that he really wants to empower minorities in giant corporations and organizations like the NFL, and I think that this is his goal. I also think that Eric Reed has a super important point. Eric Reed is of the mind that when you are making these partnerships, especially as a prominent member of the black community like Jay-Z, it will give people a shield. The NFL and the people that defend the NFL's decision to, or not the NFL's decision, or will defend the NFL not allowing Colin Kaepernick to play, is, I should correct that. The NFL is not taking a hardline stance that Colin Kaepernick cannot play. The idea that they're blackballing Colin, I should say, because, while I believe that there is merit, he's being blackballed. I don't want to specifically accuse people because you can get into weird, dicey legal situations, that kind of stuff. While I think that there is a truth in the idea that he is being blackballed, I don't know to what extent, and I don't know by whom. But when you are partnering as an organization with a prominent figure in the black community, one as big as Jay-Z, who might be one of, if not the biggest figure in the American hip-hop black community, social justice community, you are giving people a shield. You're giving the NFL a shield to be like, what do you mean that we're blackballing Colin? We don't care. If he could play, if teams want to get him to play, they can play. It's not a racist systematic oppression thing. Look, we have Jay-Z partnered with us. Jay-Z, you're going to call us racist when we have Jay-Z partnered with us? And then the fans can do the same thing. Oh, if they're racist, then why'd they sign that deal with Jay-Z? Why would they want Jay-Z's help, and why would they be doing this Inspire Change initiative and meeting with leaders of the black community? If they really were so against Colin Kaepernick, they wouldn't want to talk to these people because these people are in support of Kaepernick. But it's much deeper than that. Like most things in life, follow the money. Where's the money take you? I think Eric Reed's first point about money is fair. I think that this is mostly about money on both sides. I think Jay-Z has the right mindset that he really does want to try and help inspire social change, but at the end of the day, if you're not making money, people don't really care. It's the sad part about issues like this in our country. If there is no financial incentive for somebody to do something, they are not going to do it. It's why people are not going to let Kaepernick play. Because even if you as an owner or you as a team management believe in the message that Colin Kaepernick is sending. If you have a large sect of fans in a sport like football that is American-based, that is enjoyed especially by an older demographic, because the thing I've talked to people about is football's demographic is pretty wide. There's kids that watch it, there's middle-aged people that watch it, there's older people that watch it. Who is most likely to be offended or to be upset with Colin Kaepernick's message and protest? Probably an older crowd, right? For the most part, probably an older crowd, middle-aged to older crowd. While the NFL has fans, and a lot of them that would support Colin Kaepernick. People bought jerseys. There are people that are boycotting the NFL still. Excuse me. But who is able to afford the tickets? Middle-aged to older people. NFL tickets are expensive. Apologize. NFL tickets are expensive. Middle-aged to older age, richer people can afford them. Who can buy the jerseys because they're more expensive? It's usually parents buying them for their kids. It's usually older people buying those jerseys. It's about money. If that crowd turns on you and you start making less money, people are going to panic because people are going to lose their jobs in the organization. People are going to wonder what's next. And that's just kind of the unfortunate thing about the Kaepernick situation and about most things in life, is that if the money doesn't make sense, even if it's the right thing to do, even if you're doing things that will change systematic oppression, change a rigged system that favors the rich, why would the rich want that? Why would the people that are counting money want that? Where money equals power, where money equals progress to people, it's just not going to happen. Even if you agree with it, even if you disagree with it. If you can make money off something, even if it's something that you're morally against most of the time, if you can make an absurd amount of money, it's just like we talked about earlier with the BS and the talent, BS and the production meter where they cross. There's the moral and the money line. And where you might dip your morals to make more money. And that's just my opinion on the situation. Obviously, there's going to be more to come from it. I don't know exactly what kind of role Rock Nation is going to have. It seems like they're going to partner with the Halftime Show, and they're going to help that Inspire Change initiative. We'll see how that goes from there. But let's go ahead and wrap this up because we're almost 45 minutes. My name is Brian Brindley. This has been the Games We Play podcast. I really appreciate you guys listening in. The update video should have gone up before this, but if not, the update video will be up soon talking about where I've been and talking about the plans for the channel in the future. I appreciate you guys so much for tuning in, taking a listen. Hit me with a follow on Twitter at Brian Brindley, BrianBrindley, or at Facebook at Real Brian Brindley. Share this with your friends. Give it a like. Give it an unlike. Give it a dislike if you don't agree with me or if you dislike the video. Any sort of feedback is appreciated. And go ahead and comment down below or tweet at me, message me, hit me on Facebook. Let me know topics you want to know. Let me know what you thought about my different opinions today. Let me know your opinions. What do you think about these situations? And I will see you guys in the next episode next month. And yeah, take care. Thank you guys so much for supporting. Have an awesome day.